Welcome back to the Ikko Ikki campaign Abridged, where last time we took out the Kono invasion force in Honshu and nearby took out our treacherous vassal, the Iragami, so that's cleared things up a fair bit. We also finished taking Kyushu. We had to finish off the Kono again when they naval invaded, but now the place is secure. And it's time to start thinking about going to attack the Kono ourselves on Shikoku. I was trying to do this by making a short crossing from Honshu to Kyushu, a crossing we can do in one turn basically. And we're actually in a position now to be able to launch an army towards Shikoku Island. The issue is things like this. In the fog of war, there can be enemy ships that stop you. So we need to be sure that there is a route we can actually take, and that just means sacrificing ships at this point. So I've built all these trade ships here and there, and they're just going to sail forwards looking for ways clear of enemies. And here we do appear to find one. There's a bit of beach right there, meaning we can land, and that's going to be in range of this fleet, and my troops here have enough movement points to get into the fleet, so I can actually land some troops there right now. There's no particular reason to do it right now other than there's an opportunity, and I decided to just go for it for the memes and such. So here we go, we've landed this one stack. It means I won't be able to get the second stack over because they're not ready, and this one stack will have to fend for itself. But I also figured that since the Kono have had most of their troops in our territory recently, there probably won't be that much in their territory. In the meantime, we do have this other army that will set up at the same dock to do the same thing. The ships I just sent out will be killed, so I'll need to make some more, but in principle we can do that again if the way is still clear. Also, when it comes to attacking the Kono, we've got this situation back on Honshu. I was moving through some woods with these guys to come and besiege this castle. The problem is this castle is very heavily garrisoned, so we can't make an attack. And even a sally wouldn't be that good of a situation for us. I do have some reinforcements I can use to help out, but there's another project right next to that one that I wanted to take part in as well. The Satake have that castle just to the west there, and I want to try and take it back since I figured they probably don't have that much stuff, since we have defeated them recently. Here I did some Ashigaru scouting and discovered they have a very small army, but it's in ambush just on our border, so that means we lose our unit, but then everything can go and attack the now revealed ambushing force, so we take out a couple of officers and a couple of good units right there. That went okay. And then we just set up hidden in the forest ready to advance on the castle next turn, so we'll have to see what they have and see if they come out indeed. So yes, I'm going to leave that situation, and back with the Kono, I thought I won't leave this as a siege because I don't really want them to sally. I figured that next turn our situation could be a lot better than it is now, plus if they sally, they'll get those reinforcements outside, and we can change this up into a bait and ambush situation, which if it works will mean we end up fighting a similar battle to the sally, only they'll not have those few extra units, so that's a little bit better, although it has the downside that we're not counting down the siege timer, and if we do have a massive victory we won't be avoiding fighting a garrison. But anyway, let's see what actually does happen. The Kono on Shikoku have an army, so looks like we are going to have a contested landing right here. It's a straight up stack on stack attack here on the beach. I feel like our army is a little bit better than theirs. The balance bar says it's perfectly even, but whatever the case, we need to get a big win here so we can go on to fight more battles at enemy castles. We had a little bit of a hill on our left, but we're not really using that too much. My main play in this battle was to go around the other side of the hill with these blunderbuss troops. Those are very short-range gunners backed up by some katana ronin. So they're going to strike the enemies back once they've engaged us. And here comes the engagement once again, no skirmishing to worry about, they're charging right on in. And I was pretty cautious in this fight. I pulled my archers back way earlier than I normally do. I guess I felt like keeping them alive this time, or maybe I was just paying attention in a rare twist. So in they go, but the thing is, the enemy did see my hidden units out here on the side of the hill. I think they actually smell the hidden units sometimes. So they sent some guys over there. That's going to ruin the plan. But at least the battle itself is nothing too bad. I mean, both sides have pretty similar strength piling into each other, but we are in Yari Wall formation in some cases. At the far right end of the line, we've got some katana ronin who are going to annihilate those enemy spears, so we'll have the right flank won in a moment and we'll be able to fold in. And on the left end of the line I had some other Ronin I could push into the fights to try and win them, as well as these Ronin over here at the far left. They're going to take out those Eshigaru that came to investigate while the gunners set up some outflanking shots. At the very top of the hill I had my fire bombers, and they're going wild, blowing everybody up. They actually had a pretty good battle because the enemy general came up the hill, targeted the firebomb throwers onto the general, and we basically took out his whole unit in a single volley, so that worked super well. Meanwhile, we're clearing things up over here on the far left. We're ready to bring the blunderbuss troops in. The thing is, they're not really going to be of any use to us now because we're starting to win the main fight. The balance bar's looking good and the enemy's lesser troops are retreating. Where they're not retreating, they are doing okay. Both sides are just sort of going tit for tat here with very similar troops to use. But we do have them just about outflanked at both ends of the line. And with the enemy's militia and Eshigaru troops starting to leave, we're going to have numbers on our side too. Sent my general out to finish off their archers, and my grand outflanking maneuver, now coming to fruition, arrives just as the enemy's army losses kick in and everything just routs anyway. So shouldn't have bothered trying to make any sort of plan, should have just had those guys in the main line. Here's the result. It actually wasn't that good because when I hit end battle, the game was not generous with the final auto resolve. So we killed 2,000 but lost 1,000 ourselves. Not ideal for a situation where we're kind of stuck out there. But before we look into that again, that ambush I set up happens. In retrospect, I'm pretty sure this was a bad idea because you can see there's a 2/3 stack garrison that will now be allowed to spawn in the castle after this fight. So it probably would have been better to fight this as a siege sally defense. Plus, as I've mentioned before, ambushes actually aren't that useful tactically. The starting situation it gives you doesn't really provide any advantages. I went with the split deployment just for fun, and this means the enemy will split too. They're going to charge in both directions and we're basically going to have two little fights. Well, more than two really, as these formations start to split up even more. I wonder if it would have been better to deploy all my troops on the side with my reinforcements and not engage until they get here. But yes, we're playing this as an ambush, sort of as intended, but I think just treating it as a regular field battle and letting the enemy form up somewhere might have been easier. But this is what we have. They have lots of archers attacking our northern line, need to get the micro going to sort that out. And in the south there's just going to be a big brawl between the various units. We get a good fight right here, where our Long Yari Eshigaru in Long Yari Wall formation managed to hold off some Katana Samurai and start using the repulsor magic on them, meaning we'll be able to do really well in that fight. Here's a situation where we will not do well. The enemy's Katana Cav are absolutely annihilating our Katana infantry. They're basically the hard counter to Katana infantry, so down they go. We've got a few spears there, but they're going to be fighting in multiple directions, which is not good for morale. However, we have got these archers in trouble now. We've charged some stuff into their big archer blob and we'll start killing them. It was a fight between some Long Yari Eshigaru on both sides, where our men seemed to do much better for whatever reason, so we cut them down. I guess the Long Yari magic was on our side. And here was a great fight. Managed to rotate a battle so that some enemy samurai had their backs to a line of my guns. Now we can just snipe them as the fight goes on and we'll easily win. So now you can see things are starting to devolve into various smaller fights all over the place as units are being turned and moved about by the AI charging in every direction. And we are starting to lose units. We've already lost a couple up here on this corner, and some of our spearmen are under a lot of pressure. Fights like this are not particularly good, where it's just Ashigaru fighting other Ashigaru and both sides will be annihilated in the fight. Not really what we need, and here's certainly what we don't need. The enemy's heavy cav get in amongst our archers, and there's just nothing we can do there. Those archers are going to go down real fast. At least the enemy archers, of which there are quite a lot more, are also going down real fast. We've got a whole blob of stuff, just trying to force our way through these fights to get more and more archers into melee. Not doing this in a particularly sophisticated way, but it seems to be working. Also, my reinforcements are now starting to come into the fight, so they can influence things a little bit. Looks like my archers are hanging on here, which is great because the other archer unit is shooting into the melee, might pick up the odd kill, but with the enemy's decent armor, probably not very many. And here's that good fight between the Long Yari Eshigaru and the Katana Samurai. You can see they're struggling to get close enough. Many of them are standing well back, where they can still be attacked by our magic. So that's all good for us, and we're going to win that one. But yes, plenty of brawls where both sides are being annihilated. And really, it's only the arrival of my reinforcements that clears some of these up, because suddenly we can gang up on enemy units like 4-on-1 and take them out. It was another good fight next to the guns, where some enemy cav fighting my spears while being shot, so that little section with the guns is doing well. And we are now starting to finally get through all of the archers. Just need to take out the last group, which were Archer Samurai, going to be the hardest group. Plus they used Banzai, so they can't rout, meaning those little fights went on longer than I thought. But still, with the enemy's remaining troops now just bunched up here and there, we can start surrounding them and pounding them. Their general gets stuck in amongst some of our spears and heavy cav. They're going downtown. And now finally we grab some army lost routes with the last few units getting out of there. And victory will be ours, but it was certainly a messy one and certainly a bloody one. I really don't think going for an ambush actually helped me out at all here. You can see in the result, we lost 2,000 men to take out 2,500. Not that good. Proportionally the results are okay because we had absolutely loads of troops. But this doesn't leave us in a very strategically good situation because now we still have to face down the castle. It's going to be fully garrisoned and our army's wrecked, so it's probably not going to be able to do anything. Not really sure how, but we do end up with a balanced siege when I come to restart it. Thought that seemed a bit strange given how on the left our units are like basically dead, but I guess we have a lot of numbers since we have large units overall, and numbers do count for a lot on the balance bar. Anyway, as for that other nearby siege, luckily enough there really wasn't that much here, just a bunch of trash, although there's a fair amount of garrison trash as well for us to deal with. The question was, should I send this other group to the west to fight the Satake siege or the Kono siege? And I thought I'd go for the Kono siege since I was sure that the balance bar was lying here in some way and I would need more stuff. So we've now got a pretty decent army of backup trash outside the main army. The balance bar's not that great, so we can't auto-resolve or anything, but we'll leave that there. Nothing too dangerous. Now for the force that landed on Shikoku. I thought, well, I'll go take a castle because that's what we really need. I started that siege, but we'll come back to that in a sec. I can also now bring over my second army, and the sea lane to get here is still open, so we can do it again this turn, just like we did last time. Although I thought maybe I'll go to the port first. I had this idea that if you capture an enemy port, you can land and then still use your army's movement points. Not sure if maybe that was true in another game or something, but it's not true in this game as it turns out, or maybe it is and I just didn't do the buttons right. But basically, we land and lose our movement points, just like with the first army. After that I thought, well, maybe I don't want to do this siege. Either we want to take the castle now so we can defend it, or we want to keep our two armies together so we have the most powerful possible block. I'm being quite cautious actually. Normally I feel like I would have just assumed there weren't more armies and gone for the castle assault, but on this particular day I was going to keep stuff together apparently. And indeed Shikoku does have more than just the Kono on it. There's probably 10 stacks on the island somewhere, so it probably is worth advancing very carefully if we're only going to send 2 in. First though, we've got some action over at Nagashima. Surprised this isn't happening all the time. For some reason, despite the fact Nagashima's surrounded by enemy territory, it just doesn't really get attacked, and now that the Oda are attacking, they've attacked with this really bad army. I'm sure they could just send like 10 stacks at us if they wanted to, but handily enough that's not happened so far, and this fight we're facing, while an even balance bar, is actually really easy based on the actual performance of the castle. They had a mangonel, and like the last time someone brought a mangonel to Nagashima, I wanted to see would they destroy this outer tower before they captured it, and again the answer is no, meaning we didn't lose any damage potential from the possibility of having the tower be destroyed. And then, once the enemy were running at us, I decided to spend most of this battle doing some first-person shooting with our own mangonel sitting over here. Since the enemy are kind of coming at us in a big column, it's quite easy to hit stuff. You don't really need to get the range right, so it's perfect for manual shooting. So yes, we just blast away. And one of the nice things is that when you manually fire mangonels, while only one of the pieces can fire, it kind of absorbs the reload skill of the other pieces, so you can actually fire very rapidly. After a while, we've blown up a whole bunch of enemies, and presumably some sort of fight's going on. Looks like I decided to come and check it at some point. But yes, the fight itself's going to be fine. We've got 2 units of katana retainers holding the enemy off. They have managed to get up the walls, but the walls are lined with garrison units. Doesn't matter if they die, and they'll win their fights. So we get back to business, and soon the enemy are blown all the way out of the castle, and off they go. The generals come in as well after that, so I get 1 extra round of sniping, much harder now that they're just single targets. And here we go. The final result is that they got absolutely destroyed and nothing happened to us. And there we go, Nagashima continues to inexplicably hold out there. Looks like our fleets near Shikoku are going down, but that's to be expected. And then we do see a battle with the Kono. They send another stack over to our landing zone. So it looks like I was right to be cautious, although I really didn't think it would be the Kono making this attack. They have yet another army. Luckily it's not that good, and we have 2 armies here. The main priority though is to get the army that's not already damaged to do most of the fighting, so we can spread our losses out and avoid losing any whole units. The map didn't help very much because our deployment zone is actually kind of close to the enemy. You can see we're already like in the middle of the map at the start of the battle. Luckily enough, as I ran away, the enemy were just walking towards us today rather than the usual mad sprint. So that's very helpful. I am going to have enough time to get to the back of the map where I can link up with our reinforcements and put together a formation where the enemy are kind of 2/3 covered by our better army. It's our faction leader's army too, probably our best army, and it happens to have a whole bunch of guns in it, unlike my usual build. Not that I pay much attention to the builds, I sort of just put armies together from whatever happens to be available, which is especially the case in this mod because of the unit caps. You can't really pick and choose what your armies are going to be, you just have to use what you can and what you're allowed to recruit in certain places. But anyway, yes, I have a lot of guns, and we do gun down a whole bunch of samurai as the fight starts, so that's handy. Then we get out of the way, well I got the guns out of the way, then remembered to also get the second line of archers out of the way. And behind them, we have some troops to receive this enemy charge, and I'm at the last second putting some of them into the Yari or Naginata wall formation. Should have done that earlier really. I did get my weaker army to fight a few enemy units. I kind of wanted them to not fight at all, but it was sort of unavoidable, and we do want to use our numbers to do something. So I'm folding around on the left, taking down a couple of enemy units. And on the right we can fold around as well, just because we have spare things. Since it's 2 of our armies versus 1 of theirs, we're going to have a whole bunch of spare units. And broadly speaking, we're in the money here. In the middle, the enemy's attack on our centre is going very badly, and our men, as you can see, are just doing absolutely nothing, but the enemy are falling over themselves and dying of heart attacks all over the place. That's that Yari wall magic, it's all working out for us. Things are a bit messier actually over with the army I was trying to keep alive. Here's the place we're actually taking the most losses, so that didn't really go to plan. But we are at least destroying the enemy. It was a nice attack where I got some firebomb throws to attack these enemy bow samurai. That's going to be somewhat effective. And yes, now we can just envelop that archer block, and everything else is going to start going pretty soon because of army losses. Looks like our right wing is absolutely slaughtering the rest of the enemy archers and their routing units. The battle's soon over except for Banzai units that won't retreat. Got another chance to use my blunderbusses, and they're really bad. They seem to be shooting even at point blank range and missing completely. Not really sure what the deal is with those guys, but they are not picking up the kills in the mass way that I thought they might. Anyway, even without them helping out, we did take down the enemy. Our first army is now down to low health on 1 unit, so risk of losing it there, but overall things are good. And that's another Kono stack down. Surely they can't have many troops left after all of this. Our first priority now, of course, will be to go and take that castle using both stacks to make it a nice auto-resolve, and the question now is, will the auto-resolve delete that unit that's on low health? We only have to lose a few men to lose a whole unit here. We were lucky though, it didn't actually take any men away from the really damaged unit, so we got this place for free, and now the replenishment begins and we avoid winter attrition. Plus we finally, after a whole bunch of fighting, got our foothold on Shikoku. From here we can move on to attack the rest of the island, and really the hardest part is potentially over, depending on how heavily fortified the rest of the island turns out to be. The fact we haven't seen any armies from the Aki or the Miyoshi, the other 2 big clans here, suggests they might just have 4 stacks sitting at their capital trying to be defensive or something, but we'll see when we get there basically. I figured the Kono nearby probably don't have much left, so our first mission will be to take out all of their presumably exposed castles, but we're going to wait this turn and get some replenishment. I was pretty much done for this turn, but I decided to go back to that Satake siege over here, mainly because winter has appeared, and I thought, while I could leave the 2 sieges in this area going, I don't really want to, because we'll have to wait a few turns to finish them off naturally, and we'll lose loads of men to attrition if we wait that long. So I figured this battle here is actually probably easier than it looks, because we can do some classic siege assault exploits using the fact we have a bunch of archers. So the thought was, we'll do this and then take these units to rush on to also do the Kono attack with a load of stuff after this. Now doing a exploitative siege assault takes a very long time, but it usually can be done. You have to make note of the fact that many towers on many maps are kind of broken, and on this particular map we've got the tower on the western wall can only shoot backwards. So we can go and stand pretty much right in front of it and gradually snipe away at things inside without taking any losses. There are also plenty of maps where you can stand places where towers can't see you and stuff to do something similar. And usually the AI will commit its archers to facing a certain direction and then won't turn them if you attack them. So like right here, the archers are all facing south, so I can just rain arrows on them from a vaguely western direction and they don't care. So in this way you can free up more angles for yourself to use and find more enemies inside the castle to shoot. And you can pick up a whole load of kills doing this, but obviously you eventually run out of ammo, so it has limited capabilities. And here, because we're using the Yumi militia, they're just real bad. They don't have that much ammunition, their accuracy is low, and I don't know if there's some sort of arrow damage stat in the game, but for some reason, a lot of the time when their arrows hit, it just doesn't seem to do that much stuff. The enemy don't take that many losses when being hit very directly by full volleys. Who knows? But eventually we picked up a whole load of kills in this fashion. Now I'm skipping very far ahead to after I've used up all the ammo on all of my archers. We just need to go over the walls and melee kill everything left over. Now that tower is shooting at me, so I was very conscious that I needed to get a unit to stand on its capture point, which is difficult because it's in an awkward position. And all these little small remnants of enemy units kind of stop you moving around because they draw you into melee fights. And that tower does kill you real fast. It's kind of hard to tell because the arrows are really small, but it shoots super quickly. So we're going to be losing loads of men to that. Plus I'm now going to face the issue that the AI has been facing against me so much in this campaign, that the troops I'm fighting won't rout. And my men aren't that much better than theirs, so they don't have to kill me that much to get rid of me. And you can see on the unit cards down there, many of our melee attacking units are being taken downtown quite quickly. Even those warrior monks are struggling against those militia. They might be getting sniped by a tower or something. But yes, it's difficult to take out all of the enemies completely, because even regular Ashigaru are only a bit better than militia, and once they're exhausted and their melee stats are reduced by that, the two sides don't really out-kill each other that much, and the enemy can out-morale me because they're inside the castle. Here was an example of an enemy tower doing a number on me. Tried to get these archers to capture a tower, but basically the whole unit got killed during the climb and walking around a corner to get to the capture point, so that was pretty nasty. The units I sent to go towards the capture point from the west have now been defeated, so we really are going to have to grind the enemy down. No timer wins for us quite yet. It was getting to the point when I needed to commit these Yumi militia into the fight somehow, because we just don't have that much stuff left inside the castle. Even our Naginata Ronin weren't doing all that well against the enemy's mashed Ashigaru. I guess Naginata Ronin are not a very offensive unit really. And right here I was trying to use sprint on my units in combat to increase their stamina for a while so they might pick up some kills, because even like my Katana Ronin just weren't doing particularly well fighting against the enemy's militia units. Not entirely sure why. I was surprised by how badly it was going. Maybe because I'm so used to fighting with a general who's giving buffs or something. I just expected my men to do better in these situations. But overall, we have been ground down a lot. We now have none of our attacking Ashigaru units left. Only the good ones are still in there, and they're in trouble. Now it's time for the Yumi militia to be our new offensive units then. I'm going for the capture point with them. The idea was just to have our survivors out there keep the enemy busy while we grab these captures. I got some Katana Ronin to stand on the castle capture point while the bows grab those towers, and the other units left on the enemy side are now so small that we can just keep them away with sheer mass, and the unit nearest to the capture point wasn't trying to push me off. As a result, while we did not take out all of the enemies in the castle, we cheekily grabbed the capture and were able to end the battle that way. A decisive victory it claims, but actually our losses were enormous. We lost more than half our army, including a whole bunch of units, 2 of them being warrior monk units as well, so some bad losses there. That's going to mean that actually it's not so easy to sweep on and just take the other castle at the same time, so I'm not going to do that next turn. And we'll come back next time to have a look at what I eventually do here. And of course, we'll be getting on with the Shikoku campaign and moving out to see what the rest of the island has to offer.